So this is just a warning to you. I get it. I'm excited about it. And there's genuine use cases, convenience, and features that aren't so much of a problem, right? Gift cards, concert tickets, whatever else, okay? That you would like to have baked into your fancy schmancy wallet app. Me too. But let's stop it at that. Because anything more, and you start opening yourself up to a world of hurt.
Power on.
Real-time Sovryn is go.
Ooh, the golden stallion, the man of tomorrow, Savzu, the rated R radio star, Dr. Brian Sovryn here for another real-time Sovryn. Coming to you from Ice Planet Zero. Often beautiful, sometimes not. Depends on some of the cities you might be in. But anyway, that life's for some people, not exactly for me. Anyway, something I wanted to talk about that I don't think gets enough attention. Like I don't really see, I'll see announcements. In fact, there was a recent announcement, I want to say it started perhaps in August when it finally went live. It might have been announced quite a bit earlier. And of something that Google was adding to Google Wallet. And I know I've also heard clamors for Apple Wallet to do the same thing. Okay, now, by and large, let's be clear here, okay? Apple Wallet is really the superior product. But admittedly, I understand why in most people's minds that this particular feature we're going to talk about is something that Google Wallet already does have, and it's a pretty cool feature. Like it's something that I totally get why people want it, okay? Especially like Apple users. And I use Apple Wallet a lot. I've also used Google Wallet a lot. In fact, I've used this very specific feature just to test it out, see how it operates and all of this. But what it really comes, what we're going to get into has to do with Digital ID, which is a growing feature. Sorry about the wind here on Ice Planet Zero if you're hearing that in the microphone. But a growing feature in varying states. I want to say there's at least anywhere between 5 to 7 states that allow for this, where you can have your driver's license and use it, produce it when asked, produce it via your smartphone's wallet app. And that is somehow good enough. Okay, now that's how it's supposed to work in theory. That's not exactly how it works in practice. For example, California is one of the latest states to allow for this. But they don't really allow for it because you still, even though they can, yes, a road pirate, police officer, can scan it from your phone. By law, technically, you're still supposed to have your physical driver's license on you, okay? And I think really, and maybe it's not even about the road pirates, police officers. Maybe it's not even about them. I think it might even have more to do with like being able to use it at TSA to, get on planes or whatever else, however that shapes up, okay? So, but Google Wallet and Apple Wallet generally have a degree of feature parity. And I'll admit, we'll talk about the Digital ID thing more in a second. One of the things I really love about it is, I attend a lot of concerts. Like these are planned sometimes a year or even months in advance. That we, Mrs. Sovryn and I prepare to go to these. And I mean months and months and months. Usually it's like a year ahead of time as soon as they get announced or something along those lines. Been a bit of a quieter year this year than normal for varying reasons, but regardless, it's always nice that you can just download the ticket usually from Ticketmaster. Not that Ticketmaster is nice. Fuck those guys. As well as Live Nation. But you have the app, or you have your pass right in your smartphone, because you're bringing your smartphone anyway. And so there it is. There's a convenience factor for sure. and I enjoy it. Not only that, but if you want to, you can tie it in with your calendar, and then you can get reminders that something's coming. Because again, if you've been to a lot of concerts, you know how it goes. Usually, you're not going for the scalpers anymore, right? Because who's carrying cash to do that anyway? But again, it's months in advance, 6, 7, 8 months. A year, maybe even more than that in advance, depending upon what kind of concert we're talking about here, how big the show is. Okay? So having that there so you can constantly be reminded when the show's coming up or something, again, there's a convenience factor. I get it. I like it too. It's cool. And so the part of the issue there, though, is there are some venues, in fact, some of them are very famous, maybe not massive in size, but very famous venues that still don't use, for good reason, don't really use Ticketmaster and don't use Live Nation. One of my favorite, and again, one of the most world famous and storied event venues is the Palladium in Worcester, Mass. It's not Worcester. And what you do is you go through their website, whatever, and maybe you can get a resale ticket through Ticketmaster, and then you can do it that way. But usually you go through their website and you download a PDF of the ticket. Now, what Google introduced in August was the ability to, in Google Wallet, instead of needing, because of the PDF, you can't just put the PDF like an Apple Wallet, what the Palladium does in some of these other more independent, albeit, again, storied and very famous venues. They don't have an add to Apple Wallet feature or something, okay? So, what Google did, and they didn't just do this for concerts. I think their plan was to do this for all kinds of things, okay? What Google did was they made a feature where it's just called an everything else feature in Google Wallet. And so you can add anything, any PDF, whatever, and it'll take them as images, and it'll turn it into a wallet pass that can get scanned and interact with NFC and everything. And it's pretty slick for what it is. Now, a big thing that it gets used for more is, of course, like insurance cards, and you can even if you're in a state, say in the US or wherever you happen to be, and in fact, actually, I think this feature is US only for Google Wallet. That's true for so much of what Google does. So I apologize to my global audience, because I know you wish this stuff existed for you. But it'll let you put in your driver's license, even if a digital ID isn't accepted in the state that you're in. Okay, and so I did this, and it looks very nice, and it says it right on the Google Wallet. Maybe even in the YouTube video here, if you're watching on YouTube, I'll bring up a quick screenshot. Not of my ID, but of just what it looks like, in Google Wallet, okay? And again, this is very convenient to do, all right? Now, like I said, it's not an Apple Wallet, even though Apple Pay, which really that's what we should call it, is Apple Pay, not necessarily Apple Wallet, but you know what I'm talking about. But people want this added to Apple Pay, and to be a feature there. And sure, I'd like it too, for concert tickets and things like this. But I want to talk about, because I remember going to a Bitcoin conference, and it was primarily Bitcoin. It wasn't really about blockchain overall, okay? But this was many, many, many years ago in Las Vegas. In fact, it was like one of the first events where Craig Wright kind of claimed, at the same time didn't claim to be Satoshi, but he was there remotely, and it was kind of a big reveal, kind of a big deal at the time. Nick Szabo, I think, was there. Anyway, so I remember being at that event, and one of the speakers saying that everything everything that you need to engage in commerce, and so on, and this would include your driver's license and your ID, everything that you need to travel and engage in commerce and all that should be on your smartphone, should be on that device. You should not have to carry physical cards around with you. Now, I got the person's point, and I'm not disparaging them whatsoever here with this, okay? But that, his prediction, in fact, it was Tone Vay's old friend, his prediction is really coming to fruition. Like that's really happening at this stage, okay? Slowly, but it's happening. Like I said, even in California where they implemented this, they're still requiring you to, have to have your physical ID with you, even though supposedly by law they'll let you, they'll let you have a digital one in your wallet app, okay? But so I get the convenience of all this. I really do. But here's the danger that I'm not really hearing anybody talk about. And I'm not surprised. Why? Because they're not anarchists. I mean, if anarchism is about initially recognizing any authority as illegitimate, which I would say, that's a fair assessment of anarchism. You may decide that something's legitimate, but it's your decision. It's not something to be forced upon you. But since people generally, they're born that way, right? I've always argued that all people are born atheists and anarchists. Then they make decisions later on in life. But because people make different decisions, they may not be worried about what it means to produce your ID after, say, getting pulled over by, police officers, or if you're just walking down the street, even though you don't technically have to have, an ID when you're not driving a vehicle, okay? So the Pinkertons shouldn't have to ask you for, I'm sorry, not the Pinkertons, the police officers. Pardon me, wouldn't want to confuse them with people that are hired guns and that gun people down, willy-nilly for the oligarchy. But, excuse me, that was a bad one. But you handing over your smartphone to produce your ID and having to unlock your phone to produce your ID becomes a very real legal gray area. Now, I don't give a rat's shit about laws. Okay, I just don't. But the fact is, there are people above me who think that they have some kind of right to enforce these things on me. So, I don't really want to even give them the opportunity to think that they can engage in their invasive, atrocious ways. So here's the deal. Now, we know, again, fuck laws, but let's talk about the conventional system that we exist under. Was it Riley versus California? In Riley versus California, it was made very clear by the Supreme Court that a warrant is needed to unlock your smartphone. Now, this has caveats, okay? The caveats are two, or at least two. There's more than that for sure, but there's at least two. One is this doesn't apply to biometric security. So basically, and this has to do with another court case, of course, but basically, if you're asked to, well, you don't even have to really be asked, but if you're asked to unlock your phone with your, your Face ID, or with Touch ID, with your fingerprint, whatever phone you happen to be, type of phone you happen to be using, if you do that, that's not the same as the warrant requesting that, give us your passcode. Okay, so that's like that's not testimonial evidence. Biometrics are not testimonial evidence, so they're not protected by like the Fifth Amendment and whatever else. Okay? So you have that problem. And easy enough to solve, even with iOS, you can turn off biometrics, right? And you can force it, you can either temporarily force it to require the passcode, through a certain button press, in a pinch, or you can just go into settings and turn off biometrics entirely, okay? And I think you can do this in iOS, but I know for sure you can do this in Android. In Android, you can actually set it to where or at least on Pixel phones anyway, you can set it to where, don't use biometrics to unlock the phone, but you can use biometrics on apps within the phone. That's a little bit better, right? Because the idea is we don't want to unlock our phone, and we don't want to hand over an unlocked phone. Okay, so and we're going to expand a little bit more on that in just a second. Okay, now the second problem that we run into while handing a police officer a smartphone, an unlocked smartphone, to show off your digital ID, okay, while technically they need a warrant to access everything on it, again, this turns into a very legal gray area where you're kind of giving them, and you'd have to fight all this in court, so why even start the fight? But you'd have to fight with them in court over, like, wait a minute, because if they do find something, because I get it, most people are like, well, I don't have anything crazy to hide on my phone, or I have my Signal app hid, I have all these apps hidden so they can't find them, right? That's a new feature in iOS 18. Android can do similar depending upon what apps you have installed, okay? I'm not worried about it. They can take a look at it all they want, and they're not going to find shit. And this is the thing. That requires, on your part, a level of understanding, a knowledge of the law that I don't think anybody on planet Earth has, not even the greatest lawyers. Like, nobody knows all the laws on the books, okay? And now the police don't know all the laws in the books either, okay? I'm not saying they're morons. Of course, I'm not disagreeing with that either. But they don't know all the laws in the books. But they probably know more than you. And they probably know some weird ones, too, that they've had to use here and there, against decent people. And that's the thing, is that you might think that you didn't do anything illegal, but then you don't know what's actually illegal. Most of us don't. It's like the old statistic that, like, most people, engage in 2 felonies a day at least. Who knows how many misdemeanors? They just don't know it. And there aren't enough police to enforce all of this stuff. So you handing over your phone unlocked leads to a tremendous amount of danger for the individual, for you. And this should concern you. And so you having all of this stuff on your device, in fact, I have a series on cybersecurity where we're going to talk about engaging in device minimalism and having that one device. You're very much handing over your entire digital life. And again, the separation between your digital and physical life is practically nothing these days for most people. Not all, but for most. So you have to contend with this. And I think, again, to show off, I get it, the convenience of not having to carry around cards with you and whatever else. I totally get it. I totally get the convenience. I totally get the appeal. Okay. I don't even like putting a case on my phone. I mean, that's how little I want shit in my pockets. You understand? Like, I'm with you. But again, you're opening yourself up to so much potential legal oppression. We'll just say oppression. So, because what the fuck's legal? It's just a stupid concept. But so much oppression. Why take the risk? Why do it? Like, I would never hand it over. Now, with Apple Wallet as well as Google Wallet, there is some degree of feature set of where you can wirelessly share, say, your digital ID details. Okay, so you don't have to hand over your phone. You're probably still going to have to do some kind of biometrics, which, again, we got into that's a bit of a dangerous game on its own. But there are ways to send your digital ID encrypted to those who request it. So I understand that exists, okay? And I'm hoping that more people will clamor for this kind of feature of encrypted sharing of digital IDs to be a thing. But I'm not hearing that call. I'm not hearing people saying that. All I'm hearing is people being like, oh, yeah, give me an everything else feature so I can put my digital ID and I can put everything else in there. And I mean, you can read the write-ups by these people and they'll tell you like that, yeah, I mean, and look, a lot of us, we do this, right? Where we already have, I mean, it's nice to have it baked into a wallet app, but we already have all these things, you know, screenshots taken of them, or not screenshots, but, you know, pictures taken of our insurance cards or even of our, you know, our license plates, our licenses, again, our driver's licenses, our passports, maybe even, you know, just because some, you know, if you're trying to go through some banking app or, you know, some other, you know, egregious, some other useful app, to where you have that handy and you can share that with them to verify your identity and all this stuff. I mean, like a lot of this we already have. We just have it in like a folder labeled important or IDs or something or cards, you know, that's on our phones. Okay. Hopefully you're encrypting your, you know, your photos in some way, whether you're using advanced data protection on an iOS device or if you're using some kind of a, you know, encrypted safe folder app or something on Android, however you do it, you know, I of course recommend that. Okay, so to some degree we already have this. And yes, I have also experienced situations where I forgot my ID or something and I had like this image, you know, of my, say my driver's license. And I showed it to the person and it was enough. Right? And other people have had this experience as well. And in that case, it can be very handy. But that is wholly different. And I never let go of my phone. Right? Like I am holding it with both goddamn hands as I am producing this image. I never ever just hand somebody over my phone. Unlocked? Are you kidding? But this is the part of it that I feel like a lot of people are missing. Is the very real danger of just handing over this most personal of personal devices. Way more than a personal computer. Handing this over to people and just letting them run roughshod on things. Now, with iOS 18, just to bring this up, like it lets you lock like every app you could want under the sun. And of course, I recommend doing that. Okay, like lock your photos. I mean, yeah, like sure, Apple has, or iOS devices have the hidden folder, right? You know all the good stuff that's in there. And me and Mrs. Sovryn, do we have some good stuff? Yeah, ain't nobody getting that without my permission, baby. So, but for everything, you know, like go ahead, lock it up. And it even locks the notifications when you do that. Do that. But for fuck's sake, do not make handing over your smartphone being the way that you identify yourself. Don't do it. I don't care how inconvenient it is to carry a physical card around with you. That is your driver's license or passport, you know, or whatever you use for your ID. I don't care how inconvenient it is. Use it. Hand them that. Go ahead and keep a picture, keep a backup. If they take it away from you or something, you've got something to show people in the future if you need it, if you really, really need it and you run into that kind of situation. But do not you lose your license, woohoo, right? You go to the DMV, you wait, you know, because it's a quote unquote government institution, you know, you wait in line for 2 weeks. You know, you look at all the skeletons around you who have died, just waiting to even like pass an eye test or something, you know, and there's cobwebs everywhere, right? And it's just, it's terrible. But I'd rather wait that 2 weeks than, you know, let some criminals, police officers, I'm sorry, get access to my, you know, again, my smartphone, my most personal devices. Not a chance. So this is just a warning to you. I get it. I'm excited about it. And there's genuine use cases, convenience, and features that aren't so much of a problem, right? Gift cards, concert tickets, whatever else, okay, that you would like to have baked into your fancy schmancy wallet app. Me too. But let's stop it at that, because anything more and you start opening yourself up to a world of hurt. And I don't want that for you, and I don't want it for me. So with all that said, keep your shit locked up, and I'll see all of you on the other side.